is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. Good afternoon if you are looking at or watching this live. With us this week is Dan Fulmer. How are you, sir?
Good to go. Great to be here.
Good to go. Also with us is Mr. Paul Zealy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Last time we saw each other was actually 4 weeks ago.
In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam.
Yeah, I did not expect to see you in that kind of brothel.
Now let's dissect that statement for a second. First of all, he was also in a brothel. So second,
it was that kind of brothel.
That kind of brothel. So, also with us is our buddy Mike Faulkner. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well today.
Good deal. And last but not least, everyone's envious of George's background. His name is George Tucker. He's the engineering coordinator for World Stage.
Hello. I'm envious of Mike's. It looks almost like a lounge.
Yeah, a little bit.
Diplomas.
Actually, last time I saw
If I
George
scoot over a little bit, you'll see the trash. It's
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were saying?
To show his age, that first deployment I saw says Hamburg on the top.
Yeah.
That just means
It's okay,
it's
if
an
I
old
scoot
one.
over, you can probably see the Electrohome one, too.
Yes, but do you have an X10 one?
No.
No, there we go.
No.
Because they didn't exist. All right, before we get started, just kind of, this isn't a story. I guess kind of you guys can comment on it if you'd like. But registration for Infocom 2015 has officially opened up. So if you are planning to head to Orlando, head over there and get yourself registered for that. So if you don't know when that is, it is the second full week of June 2015 in Orlando, Florida at the Orange County Convention Center. So June, if you go to the website, it actually says June 13th through the 19th. The actual show part is the 17th, 18th, and 19th. That 13th is when all the classes and everything started. So cool stuff. I was actually just talking to George and some folks at Infocom today. We will be there as well. We will have a booth as well again, so that'll be fun. We'll do some fun stuff. We're going to do the tweet up and everything on Wednesday. So fun stuff. Fun stuff. All right.
Just for those who are watching, tweet up means beer, so come by.
Beer. Beer is food.
Beer. I heard beer.
Free beer at that, right? Not just any beer.
Not quite ISE Amsterdam free libation in the streets,
my gosh,
but
no.
beer.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Tim's frozen.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
All right.
I had.
Stuck.
Yeah, I'm
Put you
stuck.
back.
I blame the FCC. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
Didn't you talk enough about that last week? You know,
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
It's a retaliation thing before it.
It may be. It may be. All right. So let's kind of lay this through here. This week, the Apples, as it were, out in Silicon Valley, released their latest greatest thing, which is the Apple Watch. And there was there's been a lot written about it. I just want to get your guys' take on it, your 2 cents on what it may or may not mean for AV. A couple of folks have asked me, and I commented a couple of times on what I thought it may or may not indicate. So, George, we'll start with you on this. What do you think that the Apple Watch will mean for AV?
Well, all right. So, as a standalone, I think it might have a lot of potential with all of the kind of features you can do with an interactive house and sensors associated with it. Unfortunately, in my view, with having to have a phone with it, and are you still there?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll have to start that again because you just went away and I lost all audio.
Oh.
All right, so let me start again. I think as a standalone, it's pretty nifty idea, but the fact that you need to have it with a phone and that you have to pair it with that system to make it an ecosystem really makes it sort of a really pricey toy. I mean, I talked to to John at Residential Systems and a couple of others about how I'd love to see it as sort of an RFID, follow you as you move, be able to sense exactly what you're doing kind of device with interactivity. But beyond that, I just don't see anything beyond what a lot of people latched onto, which was the healthcare portion. Having really interesting sensors and being able to use that as a daily monitoring system. That's a whole other ecosystem into itself, but I don't know. I'm not thrilled by it. I was more happy with the MacBook.
Really? See, that the MacBook is the one that scares me, and we are actually talking about that a little bit off the air about the whole one connector and everything. So, Mr. Zealy, from your standpoint, what do you think either the like George said, the MacBook or the Apple Watch means for us?
There might be some interesting things within the home areas. I really don't see it being a huge impact within professional AV. From a control standpoint, my biggest problem will be that I will now have somebody demanding that the image from their Apple Watch be put on the screen when they walk into a room, and I'll have to figure that out now that I have a way to get an iPad up. But I don't know. It's a toy. My biggest indication is that if I run into somebody who's wearing one, I know I don't have to talk to them.
Oh, jeez. No, it's the $10,000 one. You don't have to talk to them.
No, I have to talk to the people who are wearing the gold Rolex. They have money and presumably power, whereas the people who are going to be wearing the Apple Watch are going to be the same subset that were wearing the Google glasses. And as much as I live and breathe technology, I'm not a big believer in technology for technology's sake. I am a form follows function and use case kind of guy. So I have to find, what is a killer use case to involve me having to carry yet another piece of technology.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Fulmer, from your standpoint, where does this leave us in the world of AV? Is this next step of wearables, and presumably most people will think, or at least the Apple fanboys will be this is the coolest form of wearables.
I would have to agree with others. I think the fact that you have to have the phone attached to it kind of takes away from it a little bit. Interestingly, I was reading up on the Apple Watch to see what it could do and what it couldn't do, and found an article on Disney's, what do they call it, the Magic Band, which is a wearable device that they're using that uses basically beacons all over the park. And if you read the article, not to get into too much depth here, it seems like they've done almost everything you'd want to do with a wearable in the sense of what you want in a smart home, as far as tracking people, lets them purchase, have security features in there for your kids, has security features in there in case it gets stolen. Of course, the big thing at Disney is your kid can walk in any store, grab something that they want, walk out, and bing, you just get charged for it. But so that probably works nice for them. But I think truly that really shows the potential of wearables and where they can go. And the Apple, iWatch is kind of short on a few of those things. I did see, like Alarm.com has an app built in for that. That's kind of cool. Again, if you didn't have to have your phone and I could reach down to my watch and check my security and arm it, that'd be really, really cool. But the fact that you're kind of, slave to your phone takes away a little bit of that. So I think it has some potential, but a lot of room to grow. And of course, the healthcare stuff is something I think we're all looking at as far as where the wearables can move us, much further forward.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mr. Faulkner, you're going to have the last word on this. What do you think about the newest iWatch?
Well, my phone is my watch and has been for a while now. I don't think the mention of having some kind of tracker for the kids in Disney, I have to comment that I don't want to spend that kind of money on my child to have him run around Disney anyway. I'm not a big fan of like you guys said, an accessory for your accessory. It doesn't seem like it's really going to take off that much. For the wearables, for the healthcare, I do have my Fitbit. It tracks my steps and makes me very self-conscious, and that's about it.
So you're saying that this would just make you even more self-conscious, maybe?
You could, yeah.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about one of our guests' mother companies. That would be Harman, and it'd be Mr. Zeeley's employer, AMX by Harman. This comes to us from the eetimes.com. Harman is talking about the connected car is altering infotainment, and if you're not familiar with the term infotainment is, basically it is your all of the stuff that your passengers, and I want to say that very clearly, your passengers can do to pass the time as they are in the car. Please do not install a DVD player that you, as the driver, can watch. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just not very safe. Want to make sure that everybody stays in safe and as you're driving around the road.
So you're saying that the heads-up
article,
display stuff is not for watching my DVDs on my car window?
No, it's not. Especially the DVDs that you watch. George
I watch the
Mad Max.
DVDs of the guys that are in front of me. So is that all right?
Oh, there you go. That's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, that's perfectly.
And now that your car's connected, you can listen to them too.
Yeah.
Jeez, you know what, guys? Oh, all right. Well, first of all, you've got a lot of stuff going on in today's automobiles, right? And we can talk about the infrastructure and the cabling, because there's a number of different companies that are doing things. AVB is doing some stuff, HDMI, and is doing some other things. Interesting things going on with weight. I've learned more about car weight in the last year because of the research I've done into AVB than I ever really honestly wanted to know. But here's the thing. When it comes to whether it's Harman or whoever else is chugging down this road of bringing more and more things into our vehicles, first of all, is this a good thing? And secondly, where do you think that we're going to go from here?
Once again, as the resident Luddite, a guy who still drives a car with a factory cassette deck, there's good and bad. There's a lot of informational. I've got GPS now that tells me when there's a traffic jam up ahead. Sometimes it tells me there was a traffic jam up ahead 15 minutes ago and reroutes me anyway. But that kind of communication is nice. The real part of this, I think, that they're going for is to figure out how to get the communications into the car. The big pay for the automaker is going to be the self-drivable car, which is going to have to rely on a lot of sensors and communications. So they're going to have to be able to understand how to move data around. And some of those more information service functions, things like remote monitoring. Think of the idea of having your car system come in and GM or Audi or whoever is watching it and sends you an email that says this has been done or these engine things. A check engine light comes on and being able to hit a button and talk to somebody and they say, oh, don't worry about that, or I'm looking at the code, your gas cap is loose, or your engine is about to melt, you should really pull over. Yeah. So a lot of that type of stuff is very compelling to me. Entertainment within a car is nice, and granted, that's a primary revenue driver for my company, but I think some of it is really looking at the entertainment system today is the proxy for how some of these more advanced communications are going to happen. And so a car is a very strange lab space. You've got something that's got to run for 5 or 6 years, hundreds of thousands of miles in all kinds of conditions. If the radio breaks because you've got a fundamental issue in technology, it's not so bad. But do you want the first generation of technology to be navigating your self-driving car?
No, probably not. But
find out it works great for 28,000 miles.
28,000 when it breaks down. But almost what you're saying is this is a gateway technology into something.
I'm really thinking it is. because it's just not worth that much money to be able to get texts and play DVDs. And quite frankly, gee, it's nice that they're saving 3 pounds of wire, but would you really go through the years of an IEEE standard and all of that technology and all of that money in order to get a DVD video signal 7 feet?
Paul, as someone who has ridden with a 6 and an 8-year-old several hundred miles, I would say yes, it's very important. So.
Oh no, it's important to get it, but the technology behind a piece of coax has been pretty well perfected over 100 years ago.
Yeah. All right, Mike, you're shaking your head furiously, so I'm gonna let you off the chain here. Where do you think we're going with this? You're agreeing with Paul, it seems like.
I'm agreeing with Paul when it's a stepping stone to other things well far into the future. When I say well far, I'm saying in the 5 to 10 years, as everybody says. But the entertainment, copper works. Why are we reinventing it? The self-driving car direction is really where everybody's trying to get the data to, so that you can find out if the guy is 3 miles in front of you or 3 inches and you need to stop. Audio and video, I prefer it to kind of just stay where it is. Some people are probably going to want some type of video keg, so that they can continue to play all different kinds of movies when you're on the big road trip. I really would like my car to read my texts for me if I am stuck on the road. I don't want to be the guy reading his phone while he's driving. That'd be kind of neat. Have Siri or Cortana say, Mike, you have a text. Do you want me to read it? Yes. And then find out that dinner's going to be meatloaf again.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Well,
I'm not a big leap.
You've never had my wife's meatloaf, then we'll have to make arrangements for that. And very darn good. Out of curiosity, real quick, Mike, what do you have? What do you drive?
I drive a 2013 Prius.
Okay.
And I drive a lot. I live 64 miles away from the shop.
Okay.
So I spend a great deal of time in the car. And
so here, I had an experience. I buy a car about once every 10 years, right? Just because I'm a cheap bastard and I don't like buying cars. And I bought a used Ford Fusion, and I was going. I had like several different cars. I wanted to be a sedan actually, but we're planning, because I only buy a car once every 10 years. This should last me for a while. And I geeked out, and I tech geeked out, right? So I was down to a couple of things, and it was the interface, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have an Android phone. My Ford Touch reads the text with Androids. Has a lot of other different capabilities, but that whole integration with the phone, with the platform, and doing exactly what you just talked about. It was weird, right? I mean, gas mileage was relatively the same, 1 or 2, 3 gas miles per gallon. But it really came down to the integration with the technology.
Yeah, I mean, my Prius has the touch screen. It has lots of integration. It won't read the text for me, but it does have a little message that pops up and says, you have a text message.
Okay.
So I mean, and yes, there are a lot of really cool features with it. I've got no complaints with that. My first Prius, this is my second one. I put 250,000 miles on it in 4 years, and then I handed it to my wife. So that's another story. But yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time in the car, so I want it to kind of help me, but I don't want to sit there and have to pay attention to another thing, and I really don't want the masses, sorry masses, to have to pay attention to another thing while you're driving, because it's bad enough. There are accidents constantly up and down Route 7, which I'm on every morning, of people that were, reading and emailing and all that on their phone, and that's scary. But if it's something where it's subliminal, to the, out of your peripheral vision to see that, a message came up, that was fine. If they can read it to me, audio-wise, that's great too. But, I don't want more video in the car. If I play a video, it's going to be to the back seat, to the kids and stuff, and that's about it.
All right, Dan, from your standpoint, where do you think we're going with the infotainment and everything in the car tech, car AV?
I'd have to agree. I think the biggest thing that I look for is, an AV integrator, somebody to smart homes, is the integration of your sources, and I think someone mentioned the word your AV keg. Basically, is the one request we get from clients is, hey, I'm playing something in my car. I'd like to walk into my house and have that song can still be playing, or vice versa. I have kids as well. We take trips, which I couldn't survive without DVDs in the back. But it would be nice, again, instead of having to go grab the stack of DVDs now, which we don't have that many of anymore because we stream most stuff, to be able to take stuff that we own at home and somehow transport that to the car. I think that would be a really nice feature. Otherwise, I think this is one of the scariest things I see on the road all the time, and I worry about our maturity and our capacity to be able to deal with these extra technologies in the car, because you're not supposed to text and drive, but people do it all the time, and the more video stuff we get in the cars, the more concerned I am that people are just going to ignore rules and do stupid stuff and pay attention to these things, and 100 feet or 200 feet in a second goes by really quick, and so I think that's the one thing we're still not caught up with here, is our maturity level and capacity to deal with these technologies in the vehicle. We just haven't reached the point where I'm confident that it's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a story this week, I want to say it was in CNET, of a self-driving Mercedes going around San Francisco. So now I can't afford that, but hey, who knows? All right, or maybe the new iCar when it comes out. That was another story that came out this week, that Apple's doing electric cars. Mr. Tucker, where do you think we're going with all this AV car tech into self-driving cars?
Well, I think Paul hit the nail on the head. This is an encapsulated microcosm for experimentation. Why do they have infotainment systems in cars? You have to differentiate your vehicles somehow. There's very little that differentiates most midline, where they have a little bit more horsepower, but pretty much they're the same. A Corolla and a Accord are not that different. The car guys will yell at me, but please. So you have to have something that says, we have this, we have that, you can do this. I can see it being really useful for navigation and for long trips. I also travel about an hour 15 minutes each way to work all the time, so not quite the extended mileage you do, sir, but man, oh man, when I only have a radio or my podcasts, and just like them, I want my
There's
AV Nation
nothing
podcast.
wrong with that.
No, I have my AV Nation podcast as soon as I get out of the car. I want it to continue when I get into the house. Of course I do. So again, I think it really is. There's a lot going on here about a mobile device, a X-ton mobile device able to stream and update and maintain content from various sources is a real big experiment that will translate into at least home automation, if not corporate home automation. Identifying the driver, identifying the participants, putting on what people want when they sit down in the seat that they're sitting in. All of this is in there that really will translate, and you can do it in this sort of encapsulated universe that while it's moving X miles, 200 feet per second, as was said earlier, it is still not an entire house, but the infrastructure is set, and you can really determine what it does.
Yeah, and it becomes really important to get that data to a car. How often is your GPS out of date and you're having a problem? Around here, they're constantly building roads, and every 6 months or so, I finally get frustrated because I get lost, and I update my GPS. That's not going to be acceptable in a self-driving car. That GPS has to be updating practically continually.
Yeah. Well, and some of the issues with that is getting the information from the government. Honestly, I mean, they've got to release some of that information a little bit faster.
Well, you've hit on my other point. It's really the government that's pushing this, so they know where you're going.
Oh.
You notice the theme here. Everything you picked has a Big Brother can watch you subtext to it.
Well, the next story doesn't, so it'll make you feel a little better. Well, I don't know. I know you, Paul. You could turn this into a Big Brother story too. So, from CE Pro and our good friend Julie Jacobson. Nest Audio is coming soon. Well, she said it in a question. I'm making a statement out of it. They have Nest has a job posting, and don't all of you jump up at once. But this is what it says. It says you would be leading the Nest Audio team, including acoustics, audio electronics, audio software, audio test, and validation for all Nest products. Build a world-class audio team through hiring and mentoring, and develop an audio roadmap for Nest products, including hardware, software that can support delightful users, interface experiences, and innovative features. Easy for me to say. Now, Mr. Tucker, let's put on our innovative hats and our crystal balls here, and where are they going with this? Where are they going with this job posting?
Well, my first statement was, of course they are. Google
Okay.
didn't buy Nest just to have the user database, so that's probably a large part of it, the metrics. Knowledge about your daily routine and being able to find ways to sell you stuff through that.
So it is Big Brother.
Of course it is.
Dang it.
Of course it is. But to that end, why would you not have an existing infrastructure in which you say, hey, we can layer upon this topology audio and video? We'd be, well, let's not do that. There's money in it. Let's never do that. Of course they're going to do it, and it's Google. I'm surprised it didn't come as soon as it did. And, look at those Nest, not the thermostats, the smoke detectors. They've had trouble. They have audio components in them. They were programmed to say things. How hard is it to translate into a decent speaker system? How hard is it to say, we're going to take Sonos on? We've got a library of gajillion files and a library of gajillion pieces of content. Yeah. Why not own the topology? It's what Apple does. It's the same thing, and I'm not surprised. How good it will be, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Fulmer, you live and breathe in the residential space. What do you think of this?
Well, I guess my take is kind of, I would have assumed they would have done this through acquisitions, just because that's what they normally do, and it's how they acquired Nest, and it kind of to me seems like reinventing the wheel. In our industry, I mean, you have the Sonoses. There's even a couple of the Denon competitors to Sonos now with the wireless speaker technologies. So it's kind of all out there. They're just another package that they're putting the wireless speaker system in. So again, it's not something we get into a lot of unless you don't need it. And then there's the big misnomer about wireless too, which these may change a little bit. Is they're not truly wireless because you either have a battery that you got to change regularly or you got to power them. So you're still running some kind of wire. The one thing the Nest might have over that is somehow it is hardwired so you can get power to it. Through the secondary means, not a primary means like plugging into the wall. That may help it out a little bit, but I'm kind of a wait and see on this one still.
So is this if this is where they're going with taking on Sonos and some other stuff? Is it something you would let's assume a couple things. It's decent. It sounds good. All this jazz. It meets certain customer criteria. Is it something that you would spec or recommend to a client?
If it's easily integratable. The Nest came out and everybody talks about, I got to have the Nest. Well, we couldn't integrate it until, earlier this year when they came out with their SDK. So essentially you had to write your own software to make it do anything. That was great 10 years ago. We all used to do that, but in the last 5 years, no one does that. I mean, everything should be modular and plug and play and ready to go. And I enjoy doing the more complex stuff. But again, today there's no need to do that. So I think that would be the key thing there is they have to make it an open source or easily integratable.
Yeah. All right, Mike, from your standpoint, what do you think about either the job posting or what they're headed for in doing this?
The job posting, I am a little, concerned or confused, I should say, by the like he said. Normally they just buy somebody or some other company. When it comes to trying to do something like Sonos, I liked the picture of the smoke detector with the audio coming through. Although I envision more like a 6-inch Tannoy dual concentric smoke detector, and
Wow.
have one of those in every room, and being able to play from my all of my hard drives, all my music, and something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be a separate box, though. I can't imagine something that's installed in the house like the rest of their gear. It's got to be a separate device that you can pick up and set down somewhere.
Yeah, most likely, and it'll probably be on their mesh network and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Chrome TV.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Mr. Zeely, where do you stand on this?
Well, I think the real reason for going after this is that Nest and Google need to build a critical mass of connected devices, because the real fight here is not going to be for the audio system and the incremental gain they can bring up within an audio system. The fight is the Apple world of own the ecosystem. Therefore, whatever the next thing they need is, they're going to buy mine. So as you bring things in and you have a set of smoke detectors and a wireless audio, at some point there will be the Nest home controller, which will be a security device that registers it, allows you to get to the internet through a gateway, locks everything down, all of those pieces, and you don't start with the home controller. You start with 2 or 3 things, and okay, we've got an infrastructure, we go home controller. At that point, you're brand locked to their ecosystem for whatever comes out. So whatever, next you'll be buying the Nest refrigerator so that it'll order your milk for you or whatever else, or you'll have the Nest inside or whatever goes. So this is really an ecosystem fight. I think it's a little strange that a company that is this prominent is posting a job for an audio team lead. That's the sort of thing that anybody in this industry, that seems to me like an inside job. That somebody, you recruit somebody, you hire somebody, you get a headhunter. That you don't post a job opening on Monster for that type of position. And I don't know where it actually came from. I mean, it could have been a job posting with a headhunter. But that seems a little weird. Inherently, there's nothing new. There's a lot of wireless, presumably wireless. I like wires. I have been very upfront about that. I understand and believe the technology behind wires, no matter what, and therefore I like it. To be a skyhook and be wireless, once again, within an audio system, it can be a variety of things. Your speakers in your living room and your various rooms don't move very much. They can potentially be in, and you also have an ecosystem. I know you guys don't work for companies where you get this, but I get a phenomenal amount of wireless audio devices as part of what I do for a living. And I literally have, plugged the JPL Charge, which has 8 hours worth of batteries, is Bluetooth. And on Saturday, when I'm, doing stuff in the garage, in the yard, I just keep my phone in my pocket and bring that speaker to the next spot. Whereas in a whole house system, it could be playing off from my central and going to that, and you set up your zones, you're playing what you need to do, and you also have your portable. So once again, it ties into an ecosystem where now I don't, I've got a Harman stereo system in my living room, of course, but I also have a 1970s Pioneer stereo system in my office, and if that ecosystem existed, the next one, would match as it goes through. I've even done that just because I'm lazy and don't like programming remote controls. As I've been replacing TVs, I've I've been buying LGs just because I've already got the control codes programmed into everything.
There's nothing wrong with it. I actually have. I agree with you on that. So I hope you're wrong about the whole ecosystem thing, especially
No, that's the big prize.
But here's the thing. No, hang on. Because of the thing you said of home automation from Nest, that would make me nervous.
Whether it's automation, what it is ecosystem. Everything's going to be connected. And,
whether it's Apple or Google or TIO.
Whether it's Apple or Google or whoever else. This is Google's play to go after that Apple ecosystem that is very well entrenched. I'm surprised that Apple is so far behind on this. This is a chance for Google, and you tie it in with Android, you tie it in with cloud services, you tie it in, so they got Nest Audio. My prediction next would be Nest Security, and so start with some cameras. None of this stuff that Nest is doing is technologically innovative. I mean, they're not inventing anything.
No.
They're engineering it, and they're creating a cool premium user experience that lends itself to building an ecosystem kingdom.
Paul, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's odd to me that we're sitting here in a smart home conversation, and most of us know who the real players have been for the last 10, 20, or even 30 years, and we're talking about Apple and Google. It's just kind of funny that the Nest was kind of a one-off product that everybody kind of found exciting, but to me, it still hasn't taken off in the smart home market. So,
but the smart home market hasn't taken off. What's the penetration of smart homes in the United States?
Well, and first of all, before you answer that, define a smart home, right? Before you can even answer what the
even if you went to automated AV, and granted, I work for a company that the stuff is very expensive. When we look at the numbers to automate with AMX, to really do it, consider the percentage spent in technology in a new build. We're looking at probably a house in the $1.2 to $1.8 million range as the starting point for doing an AMX automation. It's considerably lower for Control 4. It's a little lower for Crestron because they reach further down market than we do. But none of these have gone down, and none of these have hit the do-it-yourselfer. So some level of smart home that doesn't involve a professional that moves forward is going to dominate that bottom 75% of the market. So all of the houses and markets that are not premium. So for a smart home, you've either got a geek who wants a smart home and might be doing it yourself, or you've got a really rich guy who wants a smart home because it's too much work to walk over and do it. I'm old enough that I remember when people made fun of people who used IR remote controls because they were too lazy to get up and turn off the TV.
Yep.
The untapped size of that market and the players that have been in for 20 or 30 years haven't even started to scratch the surface of the size of the potential market.
Yeah, Paul, you made me think of something when you said, first of all, I think this is a soft shot across the bow because the job offering is on the Nest website under careers. So it's not hidden, it's not going after. So even more so, this may not be so much an attempt as to find someone through it as to go, we're here. So, and to that end, you said something that struck, that I've been thinking of, it was in my head, and you said security. Who's been losing a lot to every other automation company? Security companies. They don't sell keypads anymore, really. They don't sell it except for the sensors and the connection. If you have something you can sell through a security company that starts with security being thermostat and fire and audio now and security, there's a natural there right there. Even if you do it through a dealership, it might be through that channel, as well as Home Depot and Best Buy and all that other nonsense. But I could see someone jumping on that and saying,
so
you want more of this.
Well, Nest, if you haven't thought of that and you're monitoring Tim for ideas, You can get a hold of me at AMX and send my royalty check there.
Well, and George brings up
I get 25% then, right? I articulated it.
Work that
If
out.
I get a check from Nest, you can have 25%, George.
Here's the thing, though, George, and you brought up a good point. If they start selling this, or it's Nest, right?
I lost you.
Yeah, I lost Tim too.
Yeah,
Yep.
you lost me. Okay.
We lost him.
There
he is.
This is Nest, right? We're not talking about Crestron or AMX or folks that have established dealerships. I can go down to Lowe's. That's where I got my Nest. I went down to Lowe's and picked it up. So how are they going to bridge this gap where you've got the security piece now? And I'm not talking about folks like you and Dan and Paul to put these in. But let's talk about our parents, or the generation after us who have no interest in doing their own technology.
Did we not do an article a couple of months ago about Home Depot hiring a automation evangelist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
serious hardcore. I forget who it was, but somebody who is well steeped in the industry.
But it was Home Depot though, yeah.
Yeah.
And this may be the opening for Home Depot's version of Geek Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Instead of black and white ties, it would be a big orange tie. So, all right. Sorry, that was a bad joke. Let's move on to a couple Infocom stories. First of all, they're starting something. Actually, about a week ago or so, our buddy Josh Schrago was at the Infocom Connections, which was their first regional show in San Jose. They have a couple more coming up. One, they're partnering up with Simco. Simco, Infocom, SCN, and IMCCA. There are two events. One's in DC, one's in Philadelphia. Good Lord. Infocom is also doing something in New York in a couple of months. What is the value of all of these regional shows that Infocom is getting themselves involved in and kind of bringing the Infocom experience to their different regions?
Well, I know this region with all of the government and military and all of their subcontractors, it's a great way for them to see the latest and greatest toys and meet and greet all the manufacturers and kind of get to know. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a tool for the integrators in this area, and Lord knows there's a lot of integrators in this area. Yeah. For us to meet our clients, our new clients, and show off the latest toys. That's it.
All right, Paul, from a manufacturer standpoint, and a trainer, you're a fabulous Infocom trainer. What does this mean, doing the whole regional thing? Paul,
sorry, I was muted.
Yes.
I was at Infocom Connections, and it was pretty good for a first show. There was a very different crowd than we would typically see at Infocom, which tends to be more people who have AV as their primary job functions. There were a lot of what I would call secondary job function AV people there. There were more CIOs, tech managers, people who AV falls under their general purview because it was local and they could run down there and see some things. And I think that's where a lot of the value of the local shows are. GovCom didn't make it when they tried to do a government show. At the time, I was in the DC area, and I really liked the idea, but DC has never been a very good place for that kind of show because the exhibitors don't like it. DC has what we call a trick-or-treater crowd, and especially when it was tied with government video, where they'll empty out offices with people who are running from booth to booth to see what you're giving away. So it's very hard to qualify a sale sometimes, or people, and so GovCom and government video were never particularly my favorite shows. I think this one with Simco is primarily a rep show. where as I look through the manufacturers, they're all brands that are on Simcoe's line card, and they're doing some level of co-promotion with Infocom and Systems Contractor News. Although the San Jose show was very much in alliance with System Contractor News too, where they tend not to heavily align the main shows. The panels that I was on were all SCN panels, and not through. So SCN invited me, not Infocom. Be that as it may, they tend not to have the heavy-duty level of education. Things are really geared much more towards end users rather than professionals. I look over and I would hate the thought of me having to present leveraging IT networks to deliver powerful AV solutions in an hour.
Because typically that's a 3-day Infocom close.
Or a 45-minute audio conferencing DSP recipe for baseline programming in 45 minutes. And you're dealing at a different level.
Yeah.
So I think the big advantage of these regional shows is it's drawing out the non-pro end user crowd, which is really what a lot of organizations want to get to, both manufacturer and everybody wants to get to an actual customer, and with the exception of the really big important customers, they're not necessarily going to Infocom. They're not going to travel across the country, but they will travel a half an hour into city center, get a free lunch, and walk around and get some ideas and get exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Dan, from your standpoint, I know I know it's Infocom and that's more commercial, but let's if CDO would do some regional shows or what have you, what are some of the advantages of doing regionals?
Well, I love shows, and I obviously like shows that are local to where I am.
Oh, yeah.
EHX was, I think, our last big industry show that shut down that everyone used to travel to. I'd say the good thing about those shows, the old shows, where everyone had to travel to them, was one, it got, I think someone mentioned earlier, it got the people who were really invested. They're the ones that are going to go to those shows that are non-regional and you have to travel and et cetera, et cetera. I made a lot of the relationships I have in the industry with a lot of you guys and other people from the industry at these, non-local shows over the years, because you'd see pretty much everyone there. The flip side is, with the economy in 2008, 2009, I think that's when a lot of these shows wrapped, and kind of now the trend is starting to go towards more of the local shows, which can be good and bad. The good is, I think, that you can get, you're going to get a broader audience. I think someone else mentioned earlier. Not just that, you're not getting the total pros and you're getting some tire kickers, but I think you're getting some people that wouldn't have had the resources to travel before to come to a local show. So you're going to get a broader audience there. I think that's good. Another good thing is you'll get, if there's regional shows that are within limited distances, you may be able to go to 2 shows and get different information from different instructors. So I think that's another way to look at it. I've taught at EHX and several other shows over the years, and to me that was one of always the funnest things. I always learned more instructing than I did taking a class. It always seemed, because the people in the audience would raise their hands and have suggestions and questions that got me thinking more. So I always thought that was something that was great. I think the regional shows are where we need to go. The rep thing's cool, the internet's cool, and everybody's like, oh, I can go find everything online and all that, but still I like to develop those relationships, know who my manufacturers are, know a little bit more about my products, and when I have a question or an issue or a problem, I can call them and get some answers. So I think that's a critical component here that's been missing the last few years because we don't have some of these local shows.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's when I make the business case to go to different shows, that's one of the biggest things, right? Is the ability to understand the fact that I know Paul Zealy. I've shaken hands with Paul Zealy, hung out with Paul Zealy, and if I have a problem, I can call Paul Zealy, down in Dallas and what have you. So, Mr. Tucker, you'll have the last word on this. Where do you stand on these regional shows?
I was doubtful about them at first, I have to say, and having not attended one as of yet, I could see some big benefit to it. But in truth, I haven't had the opportunity yet. So, for networking, it was great. It's great, and I've done. I guess it's akin to going to an integrator who has a mini show, and that always seems to really produce powerful connections and really long-term relationships in the business. So I can see them being absolutely beneficial.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, Paul and I will be speaking at the AVI Systems local show in Dallas next week. So,
I give you segues. See,
you do. It's very nice. So if you're in Dallas, come and see Paul, and you can come make fun of me if you want. So, all right, guys, and as we kind of wrap this up, don't forget the fact that Infocom, the Infocom national show, I guess, or the international show, the big show. Is the registration for that is open, so you can check that out at infocomshow.org. We'll be there. Paul will be there. All of us will be there, and we'll have a grand old time. So, all right, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Dan, thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate being here as usual. Thank you again.
Where can people find you?
FullTechSolutions.com with one L, FULTECH Solutions.com, and happy to answer any questions or help you with any tech.
I appreciate it. Mr. Michael Faulkner, thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And where can people find you?
As always, at avotexture.com. And, yeah.
Avotexture, very good. Paul Zealy, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And where can people find you if you're not wearing your Apple Watch or driving your
Google Glasses?
Yeah.
AMX.com, and just to plug some more of the Infocom stuff, I'm teaching several IT oriented courses at Infocom, specifically for the AV integrator, including a new entirely revamped network audio video systems, which is going to be debuted, I believe, at the Infocom show. It's been 4 years. It's, Infocom was a little upset that I felt that at the 4-year mark we had to completely revamp it, because apparently some of those audio classes have had the same content since the 70s. But I patiently explained to them that things that were important 4 years ago in IT and the way AV works with it are no longer important. So we have to keep the curriculum fresh. So you can look for me, Paul Zealy, or any of the IT. We're really trying to push into some more advanced subjects. So it's not going to be, this is an Ethernet cable. I'm doing an entire Super Tuesday on traffic analysis, including the second portion of it is specifically dealing with analyzing multicast on the network.
Oh, nice.
And to be able to look into it. And this is a push specifically by Infocom to try to bring the senior people back into Infocom education. It's a little disappointing to get excited and go to a class and have them go, streaming is nice. You can move video from one room to another. And it's just 30 years into this, it's a little disappointing, and they're losing some of the higher end. I wouldn't say higher end, some of the more experienced people in their education. So they're pushing this year to try to bring in more advanced classes and really to emphasize that this is not for beginners. You're going to be lost if you don't have some chops.
So I will not be taking Paul's class, but you might need to. So actually, our buddy Harry Mead took yours last year and ranted and raved about it for a couple of weeks. So you might see Harry again. Mr. George Tucker, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Folks can find me at Tucker2's Commercial Integrator, some other publications, and of course here on AV Nation.
Yes, all over AV Nation.
Mm.
My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. Don't follow me on Twitter because at this point I've given up on the Bears ever winning a Super Bowl, at least in my lifetime. But go by the website if you would please, avnation.tv. avnation.tv, you will find this program and a host of others. There is a boatload of people who make AVNation happen. I'm just the big ugly mug that's on this show. But our buddy Josh Schrago is heading out to NAB, trying to get an interview with Chairman Wheeler about net neutrality. He's posting his questions for Chairman Wheeler on the website. Mike Brandis from Vadio has the Friday 5, and all sorts of other things. We've got a new City of Control coming out, a new Live Life, a new EdTech coming. I mean, tons and
DIY.
tons. A new DIY. Thank you.
Pico.
Pico, and didn't James Bedell do a new one too?
Yep.
Lighting guy. So yeah.
The lighting guy. Yep.
All sorts of fun and exciting things, and we've got some stuff cooking. I'll just say that for right now. But between now and Infocom, come back a couple times and check it out. We've got some stuff cooking. And lastly, but not least, congratulations to the third baby to be born into the AV Nation family in the last month. Our good friend High Five Phil Cordell and his lovely bride welcomed their first child as well. So, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. This has been AV Week.